Hello again from Fired Up. First, be sure to hit the like button and then comment below. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider does not carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. So, a new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Our audio is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can go to KELY1230.com for stations in your area. So, if you have a question or comment, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. Again, that is 702-257-1060. If you would like a return call, please leave your number or email address. There are hundreds of defensive uses of firearms in America each week. I always select a few for my listeners' information. Most are good shootings, some not so good, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm at home or carry one out in public. Be aware, individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law, so the information given here may not apply in your location. Advice from a local gun-savvy defense attorney is always recommended. Airtime constraints allow only a brief summation of incidents that may involve hundreds of pages. Be sure to read our disclaimer at the end of the show. I often paraphrase stories for clarity by translation from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into more common American English. So here we go. First up is politics. NBC News, a journalist named Rebecca Shabbat reported March 23, 2021, President Joe Biden on Tuesday called for the tightening of gun control laws in the wake of a mass shooting Monday at a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado, less than a week after 8 people were killed during a shooting in Atlanta, Georgia. Speaking at the White House, President Biden suggested that he may take executive action on gun violence. He said, "As president, I'm going to use all the resources at my disposal to keep people safe. We can close loopholes in our background check system. That's one of the best tools we have right now to prevent gun violence." Commenting on that and more stuff that went on today, if you watch the local news, Mr. Biden did a State of the Union or some type of address like that, a press briefing, I guess it was. Comments here. With the daily or even hourly changes to the attacks on the right to keep and bear arms, it is impossible to keep up with the deluge of restrictions now proposed in the House and Senate or being enacted by executive order. Gun owners realize that the toughest gun laws in the nation, as in New York City, Washington, D.C., and the entire left coast, have done nothing to remove weapons from the hands of criminals. By definition, criminals do not obey the law. They are, in fact, criminals. Under the current proposals from the extreme left-side Democrats, law-abiding citizens will be deprived of their right to protect their families and property from criminals. Violent crime rates are climbing all across America. Biden actually said that wasn't true today. Another White House Biden-Harris order banning ordinary citizens from keeping and carrying firearms will only add to more coroner's reports listing the manner of death as death by executive order. We're going to run a short commercial here about my latest book, which I have here a copy of. Looks like this. It is available on Amazon Kindle, and after that shows, I'll be back. Just don't go away. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. Don't forget, you can go to Amazon Kindle and get the book. It's right there. It really exists, and it will save you a lot if you get involved in a problem with you having to use your firearm. Trust me on that. Get the book. It's only $5 on Amazon Kindle. So, the second story comes from KOMU 8, NBC, a journalist named Kennedy Fowler, Kenedee, cute name of spelling, cute spelling of Kennedy. She reported March 19, 2021, in Columbia, Missouri, local police were dispatched to the 2000 block of Fair Lane at approximately 8:45 Friday morning for a report of a burglary with a weapon. A Columbia Police Department release says upon arrival, officers found one male suffering a life-threatening injuries near the residence, and he was pronounced actually dead at the scene. The individual was later identified as a local 20-year-old. While investigating, officers learned the deceased male was the subject who illegally entered the residence on Fair Lane. The victim of the burglary with a weapon, which is what they term for this crime, shot the intruder. According to KOMU 8 reporter at the scene, there were 6 Columbia PD units at the scene and 1 unit of assistance from the Missouri State Highway Patrol. There were no other reported suspects. This is an ongoing investigation and is being handled by Columbia PD's Criminal Investigation Division. Anyone with information should contact the Columbia Police at area code 573-874-7652 or Crime Stoppers, and their number is 573-875-TIPS. That's 573-875-8477. Comments here, another burglary with a weapon, what the rest of the world calls a home invasion, wherein an armed resident was able to defend himself. What if this exact incident had taken place after the Biden-Harris administration had pushed through their new no firearms in the home without a government permit agenda? we certainly would have a different outcome. In this scenario, the criminal would still have his firearm. After all, he's a criminal, but the resident doesn't, so he probably gets murdered. That's the result we're looking for. Biden is asking for 10-day waiting periods and various other things, plus a government background check through all their databases. If there's anything funny, you have to then apply to the government to get a firearm. Should be the other way around. Yeah. Anyway, story 3. The Chicago Sun-Times, a journalist named David Struett, reported March 19, 2021, an armored truck crew shot a gunman who tried to rob them Friday morning at a BMO Harris Bank branch at 5959 West North Avenue in the North Austin neighborhood of Chicago. The neighborhood of North Austin in Chicago, Illinois, obviously. According to the statement from the Chicago police, an armed passenger stepped out of an SUV and demanded money from a guard as he unloaded an ATM. The security guard who worked on the truck took out his own gun and fired shots, striking the would-be robber in, quote, the center mass of his torso area. According to an FBI spokesman, the attempted robbery happened a few minutes before 9 in the morning. The wounded male drove off in a dark-colored SUV and was is not in custody. The SUV was last seen going west on North Avenue. That's very picturesque. Initial reports say there was an exchange of gunfire, but that was later clarified that only the security guard had fired shots. No other injuries were reported. Comments here. In Chicago, there is quite a bit of training and practice required for armed private security, including armored car guards. Certainly, with a firearm displayed along with the verbal threat, the guard was well within his self-defense rights to draw and fire. If you practice a smooth draw stroke over and over, you can shoot before the criminal has time to realize what you are doing. The skilled contestant usually wins the fight and survive. The motto here is practice, practice. You can draw on somebody who's pointing a gun at you, because by the time he realizes you're drawing, if everything goes right, he's already hit. Anyway, we're going to break here for a word from some of our friends and associates. I'll be back in about a minute. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. Here we go. Story number 4. The Denver Post, a journalist named Shelley Bradbury, reported March 21, 2021, that according to a Denver, Colorado police spokesman, a local homeowner shot an intruder on Saturday. The shooting happened in the 2200 block of Lafayette Street about 9:15 in the evening. Police tweeted the next day that the incident is being investigated as a homicide in which an adult male intruder was shot by the homeowner. Police spokesman Tyrone Campbell did not explain why the man was considered an intruder or whether he was inside or outside the house when he was shot. He could not provide any additional details on the circumstances for the shooting. The Denver District Attorney's Office will determine whether criminal charges are warranted. That's pretty standard procedure. The man who was shot and killed was not publicly identified. Denver property crimes skyrocketed in 2020, and there's no sign the spike in burglaries and car thefts is slowing at all. The story here makes mention of the huge increase in crime in Colorado. As this just happened, the police have released virtually no details. The report does state the intruder was shot, and then the report does not make clear if he was inside or outside when he was shot. These are generally fluid situations with both attacker and defender moving as the fight progresses. As I said often in earlier stories, the devil is in the details. The participants' ages, distance from each other, physical size and agility, and 100 other variables. Each shooting is unique. We have never been in two shooting incidents that are actually identical. The reasoning there is because you see something on this show or in a newspaper report that says, this is what the guy did and the shooting was okay, or this is what the guy did and the shooting was investigated. Your shooting will be unique. They're always different. Okay. Story number 5. This is from WBTV3 News CBS, reports March 21, 2021, in Union County, North Carolina. Deputies say 2 people, one armed with a handgun, broke into an occupied home around 12:45 in the early morning, this is before 1 a.m., on Rock Hill Church Road. Once they got into the home, the resident of the home grabbed a rifle and fired several shots at the home intruder. The Union County Sheriff's Office deputies say one of the men was transported to Novant Matthews Medical Center, suffering from a gunshot wound to the thigh. The second suspect who broke into the home was identified as a 29-year-old from Charlotte. He was quickly found and arrested. He was booked into the Union County Jail on a charge of first-degree burglary. The other suspect remains hospitalized, but his injuries are not believed to be life-threatening. After he is released from the hospital, he will face a charge of first-degree burglary. No charges have been filed against the resident who fired the shots. Union County deputies are still investigating. Comments here. Another middle-of-the-night home invasion wherein an armed resident was able to defend himself and likely save his own life. The charge of first-degree burglary seems a bit misleading, but I expect once the details are clear, that will be upgraded into a violent felony home invasion. I should mention that many home invaders can be deterred by motion-activated lights, visible cameras, barking dogs, etc., etc. Avoid signs that say trespassers will be shot, or the cutesy those found here at night will be found here in the mornings. Those signs say there are guns inside that may encourage burglars who want to steal guns. They will probably toss a rock through a window, and if they get no reaction, then they break in the home. The idea being to steal your firearms. Don't use joke signs, just lights, alarms, cameras, barking dogs, all that kind of stuff, without joking about the guns you own. Okay, we're going to break here for a few more words from some of our friends and associates. This is a short break. I'll be right back. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man, Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. Story number 6. This is from WSBT Channel 22, a dual CBS and Fox station, reported March 21, 2021 in Van Buren County, Michigan. Police responded to a Decatur Township home in the area of 42nd Street just before 6:30 in the morning for a larceny report. A preliminary investigation determined the homeowners of the residence called 911 emergency dispatch to report that an unknown subject was attempting to steal their property. Before the officers arrived, the homeowners encountered the suspect outside of the residence. During that interaction, one of the homeowners shot the suspect. He was later identified as a 28-year-old male from Decatur. Life-saving efforts were made by the homeowners and the first responders, but the 28-year-old died at the scene. No arrests have been made at this time, and the identification of the homeowners has been withheld as the incident remains under investigation. Upon completion of the investigation, which will include lab analysis, a complete copy of the report will be forwarded to the Van Buren County Prosecutor's Office for review. Comment here, the first comment is, oops. No mention in these early reports that the attempted thief was armed or making any physical threat, but rather was attempting to steal property. The confrontation apparently took place outside the home. Without a physical threat to a human, or at least entry into the home, the incident fails to rise to the level of using deadly force. If faced with a property crime, call 911, stay inside, and wait for law enforcement. This will be a low priority call for the cops, so they might take their time to respond or not even respond at all. To the credit of the homeowners, they did their best to apply first aid and CPR to prevent the thief from dying. That may help prove they did not intend to kill him during the inevitable civil lawsuit. A better plan might be to call your neighbors and ask them to turn their lights on and come outside. This is where having a neighborhood watch program really helps with these minor crimes. Ask your local police about starting such a group. It really can help. Story number 7. This is from the Columbus Dispatch. A journalist named Eric Legata reports March 21, 2021 in Columbus, Ohio. Columbus police say a resident shot a suspected burglar early Sunday morning when the man entered an apartment on the west side, that is the west side of town. Police were called moments before 2 in the morning to an apartment on the 3400 block of Wilson Woods Drive near Wilson Road on a report of a shooting. The suspected burglar, identified as a 36-year-old, was found outside on a walkway with a gunshot wound and unresponsive. The apartment's residents, 24-year-old female and a 23-year-old male, told police the man had forced entry into their residence before one of them shot him. A medical responder pronounced the suspected burglar dead at the scene. Homicide detectives are investigating the shooting and will refer their findings to the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, which may present the case then to a grand jury. Anyone with information can call detectives at 614-645-4730. or Central Ohio Crime Stoppers at 614-461-TIPS. That is 461-8477. Comments here. The Columbus police say the 36-year-old's death is the 42nd homicide in the city this year. The population there, I just looked it up, is estimated at just over 900,000. That is a gigantic homicide rate. I think you need alarms, dogs, guns, and everything else if you happen to live there. That's 4 times what we have in Las Vegas, at least, as a homicide rate, with a lot more people here. Anyway, story number 8. Fox 26 TV journalist Marie Ettinger reported March 20, 2021, in Fresno, California. The Fresno Police Department says a little after 11 in the evening on Friday, a security officer with a local firm called Fresno County Private Security, that's the name of the firm, was doing his routine checks. He pulled into a parking lot that serves as a driveway leading to the back area of the Best Western on East Shaw, just behind the local Men's Warehouse store. When he got there, he saw a 35-year-old male transient in the front entryway and asked him to leave. The security guard said the 35-year-old refused, and at some point the two got into some sort of fight. The security officer told Fresno police that the transient got him in a headlock and, fearing he might be killed, the guard opened fire. The 35-year-old male transient was killed. A 33-year-old bystander who had pulled into a nearby parking lot to put antifreeze in his car was hit in the arm. It appears he will fully recover. He was just apparently in the wrong place at the wrong time. Fresno police say security guards are permitted to carry a weapon if they get a license and undergo specific training. The Fresno Police Department is leaving it up to the district attorney to decide whether the security guard will face charges. This is a really tough spot for the security officer. Tactically, of course, you want to keep your distance. A solution might be get back in your car and drive away. Early in my career, I wrote the Nevada State program that was used to train security officers in the use of force, so I'm familiar with the problems. The related book called Security Use of Firearms, Guidelines for Armed Security in Southern Nevada, which actually exists, here it is. This was written for a class giveaway only. It was part of the class, so they had something to remember and to read from if something wasn't clear. And I wrote that back in 2007. That was a long time ago. I trained something in the area of 20,000 armed security officers that I actually taught the class myself over years and years. It's a lot of people. The public expects security to act like law enforcement officers, but their authority is severely limited legally. They are not carrying firearms as an arrest tool, but rather to protect themselves from criminals if they are physically attacked. Story number 9, we're still on security here. ABC 13 News, a journalist named Wimberly Patton, reported March 23, 2021 in Houston, Texas. A shooting occurred around 11:45 in the evening at the West Houston Truck and Equipment Sales, that's the name of the company, in the 13,600 block of Culver Road in Harris County. The 17-year-old unarmed store owner called police to report a burglary after witnessing a theft via video feed at his home. He then headed to his business. Unaware that a police officer had already arrived at scene when the store owner arrived at his business and noticed the officer, he mistook him for the burglar and began shooting at him. The officer then returned fire and struck the owner in the shoulder. The deputy reported via radio that during the shooting, Yeah, he was walking around towards me. He just started firing, and I haven't even checked out the business. Investigators say that the store owner shot first and was dressed in clothing similar to the description of the robber, a white male wearing a black shirt. That led the officer to opening fire. To add to the confusion, officials say the officer's car was blacked out as part of the protocol for responding to a burglary. That means no lights on at all, and whoops, oh well, it'll just ring. That means the car had no lights on at all and was just rolling, creeping, completely blacked out. The store owner is in stable condition and expected to fully recover. The trucking equipment store has reportedly been broken into several times in the past. The incident is still under investigation. Comments here. Another security incident just for comparison. Either one of these incidents could have been avoided by loud, clear, and repeated verbal warnings on the part of the security officer in the first incident or the store owner in the second incident. Police sometimes sneak up on crime scenes, private citizens not so much. The police can black out their cars, they turn out all the lights, and they're just basically coasting forward in low so they can catch the burglar in the act. Use verbal warnings if you can't clearly see, clearly understand the target. Yell at them. It works. Okay, that's it for today. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio stations. When watching any media, please click on subscribe so new shows can be sent to your phone or computer automatically each week. Check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains dozens of episodes. My logo merchandise, Spoonie hats, ball caps, and shirts are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Strip. Contact info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you so much for watching Fired Up. Your support truly is appreciated. I'll be back next week. Don't give up your guns and practice to be safe. Good evening.